All right, everybody, we should be live for our stream tonight. It has been a very late start here for the Silly Extreme cast this week, as we've been setting up all kinds of new stuff. So, to quickly go down the list, I'm actually using my Discord camera here. So now, left is left, right is right, which is amazing. I'm on a new camera. I have acoustic paneling behind me, which is like completely screwing with my peripheral vision, because I'm not used to seeing something on the wall behind me. And Shark over here is streaming as well, so we're doing a dual stream on YouTube.
Yep, so now you can see my chat on one side and Josh's chat on the other side.
Ideally, unless anything else has broken in the last hour of us fine tuning and trying to make all this work.
Yeah, I mean it's been a challenge, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
So you can now check out my stream, and my layout on the Nexus Games LLC channel.
Mm-hmm.
Link is down in the description if you guys don't have access to it.
And for people watching this on Shark Stream, there'll be links to my YouTube channel and my Discord in his description.
Yep. And this is going to be difficult to get used to.
Oh, yes. I'm still having trouble getting used to the fact that there's like black foam, in behind my computer right now. It's just completely throwing off my entire, sense of looking back there, because there hasn't been anything on that wall for like the last 30 years or the last like 15, 20 years. So it's all weird.
Back there and you're like, what in the heck is that black stuff? Oh, yeah, that's the phone. And then 5 minutes later, what the heck is that black stuff on the wall? Oh, yeah, the phone.
I may have to raise my monitor up so I don't see it as much, too. But it is helping, right? You're not hearing the echoing as much?
Yeah, it's definitely better.
Well, at least one good thing has happened. Speaking of good things, I finally ordered my new headset, which should arrive on Thursday unless another pandemic happens, and then it will arrive maybe by 2023.
I mean, this pandemic still hadn't ended, so...
I don't know. A double pandemic. Like, what is it? The Sharknado. But we are starting incredibly late tonight, which means we are going to have to do some cutting of discussions, because of the fact that I do have to get going around 7, so like an hour and 10, hour and 15 from now. So
we're going to have to speedrun that.
Yeah, we're going to have to speedrun this discussion here. But for those of you new joining us, we do normally start around 4:30 EDT. It's just loads and loads of technical difficulties screwing with us tonight. So, I guess very quickly, the big news this week, of course, is the reveal of the Xbox Series, whatever the heck it was called, and of course the PlayStation 5 reveal. And by the time you're watching this, those pre-orders are long gone. So, what did you think of the whole Sony announcement?
I didn't watch it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch it?
Not really. All I saw was the news of having, what was it? There going to be a different price for the disc and discless version.
Oh yeah, I already knew that.
And there's of course the big reveal of, Demon's Souls Remastered, which is also coming to the PC. So, which means I don't really have a reason to buy a PS5 right now.
I mean, did you have a reason to buy it without one? Because I mean, the remaster, is it anything more than a port?
Well, they are completely redoing all the graphics. It's all looking fancy in 3D, so it's maybe more of a remake.
So they're doing a graphics update.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know, like, I still have, 185 games on Steam on my wish list. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm down to 147. I bought a few over the sale here. But all those game demos I like, they got added to my list. I'm still up to about 800 games on Steam I haven't played yet. So, I don't know. I'll get to things eventually, right?
Maybe one day.
Oh, good. Oh, that's actually good to know that the studio chat actually works in OBS now.
Yeah.
See, we're learning new stuff all the time here.
Yeah, I figured, I was looking at it being bare, and I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and put a test down.
Just be on the safe side.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
sitting here watching it, but there's no telling if it's actually going to show up.
That is true. It is your first stream.
The very first.
Okay.
Well, on YouTube anyway.
Yeah.
Stream tons on Twitch.
Yeah, so
But
I don't really have anything, profound or unique to say about the PlayStation 5. Again, I've long since stopped caring about the console wars.
yeah,
But I'm
I I have too since I got a PC.
Mm-hmm.
Getting
I
a PC will change your opinion on consoles. You'll be like, why would I get one?
mm-hmm. I still have PC updates to do. I still need to get the next thing is probably get another monitor or get two new monitors, and then maybe go for a green screen after that. So yeah, there's still a lot to do around here.
Why don't you get 8 new monitors so you can have 9, and you have the like Rubik's cube of monitors.
Well, I don't
Essentially,
know if my family would like me to just turn this whole wall into a monitor.
I mean, they might see you do that and be like, "Can you do that to the living room? We need a bigger screen in there." Just have like set up 9 like big screen TVs tiled together, like the old 80 movies. You remember those?
Mm-hmm. But other than that, I'm trying to think if there's anything else like major news-wise, and I guess anything coming to your mind?
I mean, just more updates with Epic and whatnot, where Apple is legitimately trying to, despite the court already telling them not to, they're legitimately trying to remove all games from their iOS that
Nice.
use the Epic Game Engine, which is definitely going to solidly paint them as the villain kind of thing in so many ways. And I mean, they don't care about that,
No.
but obviously, but the question is, will they care? AKA, will their fan base that buys all these overpriced Apple products care and stop buying overpriced Apple products because of this?
You got the popcorn ready, Rat's Tail? Yeah. And yeah, to his comment about, yeah, people who get the discless version, they're going to forget about, the discs and stuff. That's going to happen.
Yeah, the big issue I see with the discless version is, I don't know if Sony has this, but I believe Microsoft has a proprietary hard drive in there, or SSD in there. Actually, I'm pretty sure Sony does too. So that if you want more space, you're not just going to be able to add a drive to the outside, like an
Mm-hmm.
external bay or anything. You're going to have to go and buy their expensive
Oh,
proprietary
yes.
SSD, which will probably, and you'll have to chunk your own one kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, So like your old one, let's say it's 100 gig kind of thing, and it was like 100, the equivalent of $200 kind of thing, and then you go buy a 500 gig, and you're probably paying like $1,000 for that thing, and then you lose the 100 that you already had kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, ooh, and now you're talking about a very expensive PlayStation and still like no storage on it.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And again, like for myself, I just have no desire to buy a full price console right now. And again, I can wait. The only thing I'm like slightly tempted is that Super Mario, the 3D Mario All Stars collection, which I'm pretty sure is already sold out. Which I'm kind of curious myself on that. And speaking about kind of getting all that super rare stuff, I was talking about this on Twitter, that it seems like in a strange circumstance that all my bad luck when it comes to RNG seems to not apply if I play gotcha games on mobile. It's the strangest thing. Like, if you remember, we played that strategy game where I missed a 90% chance to hit, and then I play a gotcha game later that night and I pulled a 1% chance super rare character. So I think my luck is just completely reversed here.
Well, then you should be good when you play Project Red.
Oh, there we go.
Me on continue.
Oh, the Nintendo, the Super Mario All Stars is still actually readily available. That's a surprise. I thought people would have scalped it by now.
Well, I don't know why you'd be interested in that, because all that is an emulator.
Yeah.
3 emulators put into one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like they updated the graphics or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, if they had, I would be interested in it. But since they didn't, I have zero interest. I have a lot of issues with it because they haven't done literally anything with it, kind of thing.
And sorry about starting so late, Silicon. Like we said earlier, it was just a host of technical difficulties that kind of pushed things back. But we'll start normally around our 4 p.m. time next week.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll start even earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Like on time instead of like 20 minutes late or so.
Yeah.
As usual.
But let's get to some weird games now. And we'll push through to our main topic. Because I got some weird ones that hopefully won't be too long to get to.
Yeah, so we starting with Cybernetic Vault?
Yep. Oh, no. Oh, wait. Oh, and now we have some even more technical difficulties to deal with.
No, it's broken on your side.
Yeah, because I had to switch things around. Let's see if I can make this quick.
Working on my side, thankfully.
It's one down.
That thing is now I can't see the.
That's not gonna work. Alright, I will have to fix this. Wait. I wonder if I can take... No, I changed that. Alright, I'll have to fix that for next time then with the chat. Alright, that should be good enough for right now. Let me move me down here. There we go. Yeah, so this first game, Cybernetic Fault, just I don't know if English is the first language or not, or they just use like a word generator. It is a satirical adventure game with an anti-science story. Feel yourself a crazy genius. Do you feel yourself a crazy genius?
I mean, I do.
Mm-hmm. To say it, sometimes the world depends on half-educated people, and you don't need knowledge to be a genius. That sounds like Safely Extreme right there.
Yeah.
Fight for the future of science. And none of this actually describes what this kind of puzzle solving is. Well, it's an interesting first-person story.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting.
So this next one, Songs of Six. I'm sorry. Sounds like if Songs of Sticks, then we'll definitely get copyright claim. So this one,
wasn't that the Old River Stick?
Or the band from the 80s.
Oh yeah.
So this one, it sounds like one of those, this could be an amazing game, but it also sounds like a developer going way beyond their depth. It's a grand strategy game. You can have 20,000 individual units in combat. Looks like you can have slave labor. Appears to be a Kickstarter game. Build seems up to 30,000 individuals.
The bear map kind of reminds me of like I don't know, like a cheap Factorio kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Early, like Alpha 1 of Factorio kind of thing.
Yeah, so again, it sounds very Dwarf Fortress-esque. But there's a problem with that. Do you think this game is really going to be the next Dwarf Fortress?
I mean, it can't be because the next Dwarf Fortress is already out.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Dwarf Fortress. So no.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love this description. How many red flags does this create? I was initially put off by the UX UI, but pushed past the first 15 minutes. And then once I got the hang of it and restarted, then I started playing this game.
Is that like a review or something?
That's feedback from prototype players.
Oh, jeez.
That's actually good. That'll be a good segue when we get to our main topic.
Yeah. Well, a little bit. But
Mm-hmm. Ultimately, this game was a long-term thing. Good. Early access launch planned for September, well, for tomorrow. It has been in prototype for. This game has been a prototype for 6 years and will be in early access for a long, long time.
how many red flags just came out of your mouth?
30?
Probably more than that.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, when do you think this will be the amazing game? In 15 years?
Um,
30
probably
years?
about
Will we still be
infinity years
alive?
after they quit making it.
Okay. Maybe the robot apocalypse will happen.
Yeah, that's about when it's going to get done. Is when the robot apocalypse comes, and then they see this game, and they're like, "Hey, they never finished this. This was made 200,000 years ago.
Yeah.
But we're robots. We can finish it in like 3 seconds.
Uh-huh.
2 seconds if we skip our compute cycles."
So our next game is Gummy Bear Mafia. And this just gets on for the name alone. And I like this gameplay. The game, no, it's not gameplay, it's gameplay. In this game, you will be using your mouse a lot. That's good to know. This game does not have any Steam achievements or anything fancy like that.
I mean, taking out fancy stuff is number one way to sell your game.
And there's spelling errors on the screen. Attack is used in taking control of a sector. Oh boy. Alright, this next one, The Long Gate. It sounds interesting, but in the same vein, I can't see this being marketed towards somebody who wants to play this game. All of the Long Gate's puzzles are based on real-world technology, so you'll have to learn about quantum circuitry and a 4-bit quantum computer. You know about that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's child's.
3 different classes of puzzles: digital, analog, and quantum. And I think that optional hints will probably be required hints for a lot of people.
And there probably won't be enough.
Can you see quantum puzzles here?
Oh, I mean, like I can see it in like 5D.
Nice.
It'll be interesting when they go to make a sequel to this.
Mm-hmm.
They call it the Wide Gate, and then the third one will be called the Long and Wide Gate.
There we go. So this next game, The Dark, is a survival RPG that once again, I don't see anything unique to it. I think indie developers have been making the same game for the last 20 years.
I think you messed up the name. It's not The Dark, and then it's a survival RPG. It's The Dark Survival RPG.
Okay.
Very, very important distinction, to not be confused with the other game called The Dark.
Mm-hmm. Or The
I'm sure
Long Dark.
yeah, I'm pretty sure there's another game called The Dark.
I'm pretty sure there's probably 300 games with The Dark in the title.
Not well, I'm just talking about the name, just
Mm-hmm.
The Dark. Pretty sure there's a game like that.
And yeah, these are some really marketable screenshots. And this looks like just like high res World of Warcraft, right? Where the character's standing there in his shorts.
Yeah, it does look all like just high res World of Warcraft kind of thing with overblown glowing from candles and stuff.
Mm-hmm. So the next game, the Imagine Leviathan. This is a 20-minute horror game, which I am not sure like what we're doing. I think we're being attacked by words.
So how long do you think it takes to speed run this? 2 minutes?
Maybe. I mean, it has a unique aesthetic to it, but I think at some point we need to do a discussion about like micro games. Like a 5 to 10 minute long game.
Yeah.
Because
Short end of that is it's not long enough to sell.
yeah,
It's long enough to put out there, and maybe build some kind of fan base by putting it out there for free, but it's not long enough to sell kind of thing. You sell that for even $1 and people are going to be mad.
like the whole Dread X collection thing. I want to talk more about that. Here's a bonus indie dev tip for those of you watching this. I sent an email to the people who are responsible for the Dread X collection from their website. It says that email no longer exists. So make sure your email addresses work on your company website, people.
I mean, if they don't work, then it's no sweat because they just have to, you know, email, send their email to every person who ever wants it.
Yeah.
It's easy as that.
To a Rat's question about January, 45 minutes, I don't know, I think that's kind of like straddling the line, wouldn't you say, of a micro game?
Yeah, it's a tiny game.
Not to be confused with a micro game.
Yeah.
Or a
Big
miniature
micro.
game.
Yeah. I meant like ideally you want your games to probably be at least 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Just so you can get outside that Steam refund area.
Yeah, and when we talk about micro games, that's usually would you say between, I don't know, 5 to 30 minutes?
Sub 30, probably.
Yeah. Let's see. And for this one, it seems like you have some neon competition here. This is Neon Fusion. Face this rescue mission. Okay. 2D
Yeah.
and again, I like how it's a 2D platform and action game where the areas are interconnected. So is it a Metroidvania?
The problem is I'm not seeing any actual neons in here.
That's a good point there. The world in neon style in pixel art. For its wait, pixel art completely brings details for its simplicity and game of cores. What is a game of cores?
I don't know. Is
Ge-
that the American beer, Coors beer?
I don't know. Well, there's purple. Isn't as we all know, purple automatically makes it neon, right?
Yeah, exactly. I meant the blue. The last one is the closest to being neon, but that's not neon. I mean, neon is not ground and ceiling. Neons are
Mm,
light,
yeah. That
and I mean
sucks.
that is light looking. It looks like lights, but it's not lights. It's ground.
Mhm. And yeah, to Rat's comment about introversion, yeah, that really sucks. And I've tried emailing the press people, and they never get back to me. Let's see. So this next one gets on there again for its title, Battle Sad Boy. Are you the sad boy, or are you fighting this, or are you fighting the sad boy?
Maybe both.
And yeah, this is definitely a
Sad boy balance.
and this just seems like a Google translation nightmare. It's a mini game. It's a cartoon game. The game is a third-person character sword fight. It talks about different topics in each chapter. Wait,
Yeah, I mean, Google liked that one.
the story in the first chapter talks about a leader who kidnaps the brother of the hero of the story, and then the hero fights to save his brother. And also, the game contains platform gas as well.
Platform.
I think we found our new meme here.
There we go. Platform gas. Do you got some platform gas in that?
So it's not. I guess all platformers need platform gas.
Yeah, yep. All platformers need platform gas.
Let's see. Features: variety of enemies, pass level via teleport, fight enemies and cross obstacles, different soundtrack in every level, many modes for gameplay.
Many modes.
But how many is too many?
Two. Many.
Let's see. This next one, I can't read some of these descriptions. I think I may get me a D mod.
Yeah.
The Great Adventures of Himiko and I don't know what that is. And look at these images.
Yeah.
There's a nose of the foot.
I got like the 2 feet in the second one.
Let's see. Okay.
Oh, the 2 feet are attached to a giant nose if you look above it.
Mm-hmm.
On the second one.
About this game. They're using the P-hole, which I'm sure that won't cause any misconstruing what that means, right?
None. Absolutely none.
If I say that normally, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a D mod, and I'll also get Shark a D mod too because he's streaming it too. Isn't that great?
Both a D mod.
Now Shark can't recommend some of his games, and he'll get in trouble too.
Yep. I'll get myself demodded.
Mm-hmm. So this next one, let's see if you can spot the red flag, Shark. So let's see. It's a barrage shooting game. It all sounds good until you get down here. We are sorry to tell you guys that we have decided to delay our game. We promise not later than September. And then here are all the features. Red zombie, green zombie, blue standing pile, King Kong robot explore by you. Do you know what that means?
I mean, it means King Kong robot explore by you. I mean,
and the game highlights. It has a weather system. It has a lighting system. You can permanently save.
Oh wow! I mean, these
has
are like
everything.
Groundbreaking features. I mean, like I've never seen anything like this in any other game.
But does it have platform gas?
I mean, like only the good ones do. Only the good ones have platform gas.
We need to get ahead of this. We need to trademark platform gas and start selling it.
Yeah, I probably need to make a little meme logo or something so we could use that for an emote.
Mm-hmm.
Platform gas.
All right, so our next one is I think this is our last one because we're trying to speed through this. Is I Have Lived. Experience a journey through the empty remains of the dead world playing as both characters. Take a fresh approach to solve little puzzles. It sounds great, but once again, I have no idea what's going on in these screenshots.
Yeah, I don't either. Is it a walking simulator?
I see triangles.
Yeah, lots of triangles.
I see what appears to be a colossus.
I'll try.
Mm-hmm. There's a dragon. Do we chase the dragon?
We might. And that's not anything related to anything outside of this game, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely not. Yeah, we started very late for it, so we're trying to speed this because I do have to get going in about 40-50 minutes. So this will be kind of a shortened cast, and we'll get back to our normal length next time. Now that most of the bugs have been worked out.
Yeah. And by
So,
the bucks, he means basically me setting up most of the things for the stream.
so let me pop back over here.
It doesn't even tell what the genre of that is.
No, it does not. Well, it says it's adventure casual.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing that.
So let's get to our main topic then, because we're going to try and speed through this, but we'll see where we go with it. And that has to do with the idea of purposely making your game frustrating to play. And I know this, for those of you watching this live record right now, it sounds like a very weird thing to say. Why would you make your game frustrating? But it's something that we still see developers, especially in the indie space, do. And the thumbnail that I chose for my side included two games that I played during the Steam or the PAX Online Festival. One was, I think, a Limited Mask or Limit Mask, and the other was Non-Guns. And Non-Guns in particular, when we played this game, it was just very frustrating in terms of how it was set up. The UI is all using symbology that the game never references. It had to do a lot with, the controls just didn't make any sense. It was very annoying to play. No idea what the goal was. And when I went to the forums and I looked at what people were saying about it, the developer and supporters kept saying, yeah, this game is supposed to be confusing. You have to learn it to play it. And when I looked at, for those of you watching this recorded, during the Weird Games segment, we looked at that game, The Song of Six. And one of the descriptors, or one of the things people were saying about it, was this idea of, yeah, I had to restart the game and I had to relearn it, but then I got the game and now it's great. And it was Non-Guns. That was a game that we played that kind of started this. And we also played another game. Let me see if I saw the demo. Unto the End. That he's going for a very deliberate kind of combat system. Everything just feels not only very weighty, but it feels very cumbersome as well. And again, it's one of those games that the developer is explicitly having pain points and frustrating elements in the game. And the kind of our topic is, does that work in today's market? We've talked many times about the idea of you have to get good to play a game. And people will, again, time after time, cite Dark Souls or Demon Souls as kind of the origin of this. Dark Souls is a hard game. It was a good game, so hard must be good. So if I make my game frustratingly hard, it must make it very good. Isn't that right, Shark?
Oh, absolutely. And that's the reason why Sekiro is like the best game ever made. Because a stealth system that enemies can see you through solid objects, perfection.
Or something like Getting Over It.
Yeah, I mean, they're Getting Over It was a perfect game because the see the
PewDiePie
it was
played
perfect in the way that if you were a reaction-based YouTuber, you could put that on there, and when you did your overreactions kind of thing, you could kick them up a whole nother notch because you were legitimately pissed when that happened, kind of thing.
Yes.
So So like it's a legitimate piss on top of the overreacting, making you super overreact kind of thing, and getting you more views and more money kind of thing. I mean that's why it was good, because like YouTuber money.
Yeah. And as we all know, as long as PewDiePie plays your game, it will always succeed, right? It's
Oh,
1-to-1.
absolutely, because like nobody's ever been covered by PewDiePie and not succeeded, except for a few people,
And
and a few other people, and a few other people, and even a few other people.
oh yes, and to Rat's tail point about Hollow Knight, yeah, like Hollow Knight is a hard game, but it's paced very well. That Mask game that I played, like that one, like that is not how you do a good demo, because there is no onboarding whatsoever. And again, people will argue, well, I'm trying to make the player figure things out on their own. But if your game is frustrating to play and the player doesn't even know, how these things exist, they're not going to figure things out.
All right, I've got a game for you, Josh. Right? Okay, there's 5 bottles, with potions in them. Right? One's red, one's yellow, one's green, one's orange, and one's blue, and one's black. Now then, figure out how to play.
Yeah. And like this
and
is
the thing you didn't notice there was more than 5.
Oh, good. And like this is the problem with limited mask or limit mask. No, I'm sorry, Link Mask. Again, I keep confusing the name here, like so many other games. But with Link Mask, each mask gives a different kind of movement tech. One mask lets you wall jump. One mask lets you double jump. The game never referenced any of that in that demo. So if you don't play platformers and you don't know that a double jump exists, how would you know how to play that game?
You might accidentally jump.
And that's what the developer is intending on you doing. You're going to mash the A button, and you'll discover it's a double jump. But
yeah, good luck on that unless you give them some kind of tutorial, and that tutorial can be, just here's a wall, and and they run to it, and you basically, force their mind into pressing it twice, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe put 2 up arrows kind of thing in there, You still have to onboard the player. I mean,
oh, yes.
Because if you don't, then they're not going to know. They may fool around with it until they get frustrated and then quit. And, maybe if when they're fooling around pressing random stuff, they eventually get it kind of thing. But more than likely, they're going to quit before they get it.
That is such a stretch in terms of thinking and again, like this is not something that's limited to just 1 or 2 indie developers. We have seen this many times with developers who will outright refuse any onboarding because onboarding is telling the player what to do, and I don't want to tell the player what to do. I want the player to discover things on their own. But again, the problem, and what kind of is this kind of like the capper for this discussion, is that you don't want the player to be frustrated. And
well, I think the problem is they don't actually know what they're talking about, because they know that they played games where they felt like they figured it out, but there was onboarding in those games that helped them figure it out. I mean, it wasn't hand-holdy kind of thing and just sitting there and be like, press S, press A to jump kind of thing, and then force you to do it 3 times. It was, they did stuff in such a way, integrated in such a way that it was seamless, a way to teach you how to jump. Mario did that. The very first original Mario did that. And they did it without any kind of hand-holding, but they still onboarded, and they're probably thinking about that and just like hey, it just happens. No, it doesn't just happen. You got to put effort and onboarding into that to make that happen. That's harder than making a hand-holding tutorial, which is the reason why hand-holding tutorials are so common, because that's easier.
Yep, a dynamic tutorial or an organic tutorial. That is high-level design. And you have to be really good at being a developer in order to pull that off. And not every game can accommodate that.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what I did on my first published game, the Word of the Day Chromasia. It had a very organic, very built-in, streamlined tutorial that everybody who played it pretty much did not ever realize that there was a tutorial in there.
Yeah. And I want to get to Rat's comment about Super Metroid, because that is, again, a really smart example of onboarding. For those of you who don't know, in Super Metroid, you are able to wall jump literally from the opening of the game. The game does not reference that. It does not require you to do any of that. It exists. So what ends up happening is that there is a section in the game, this is, I think, in the second big area of Super Metroid, when the player falls down a hole, and they see these creatures who start running at a wall, they jump into the wall, and then they jump away from the wall, teaching the player how to wall jump. But this is the first point in the game where that is intended. That is required. That is a required skill to get out of that. And then from that point on, the player is onboarded by the fact that, hey, if there's a platform up here and there's a wall kind of like to the side of it, I can wall jump up it and get through it. It's an organic tutorial, but again, the game is designed and paced that you could make use of that wall jump within the first 20 minutes of the game. Speedrunners will do that, trust me. But that is not being tested by the design of the game.
Mm-hmm. And, the thing people, a lot of these new developers don't understand is that a tutorial that you do not see is not the same as having no tutorial and the player just figures it out on their own. They're completely two different things. You're comparing, I don't know, like a, total full crap to like a brand new Lamborghini kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you go to the hand-holding tutorials, that's like a Honda Civic, So you have the crap, you have, which is no tutorial. You have the Honda Civic, which is the hand-holding tutorial, and then you have the streamlined, tutorial that nobody, that doesn't know what they're doing kind of thing, that can spot that, it's a, hidden tutorial that fully teaches the player, but you never realize that there's a tutorial there unless you're a designer or something and can actually see, oh, I see what they did there.
And for you, Ras, so we just talked about the Super Metroid example with how wall jumping was introduced and then properly onboarded for the player. And yeah, like this has always been like, again, it's that very big distinction that if you're going to require something for the player to use, you have to onboard them for it. Now imagine if the player fell down that hole and there was no lesson about how wall jumping worked. They would be like, well, the game just put me into a death pit, I'm screwed. Or they had a section before that where you had to use wall jumping before it was properly onboarded. And this is another issue that we see from kind of open world puzzle design, where if the player is supposed to be onboarded and they have to understand where, what elements come in what order, if the player does something out of order and they don't understand how those mechanics layer on top of each other, they're going to get frustrated and quit again. And to another comment about frustration in small amounts does work, but there's a difference between frustration and challenge. And again, like that right there, a lot of people mess up about when it comes to Souls likes or good Souls likes.
Yeah, because like the bad souls, like they just they don't do right in many different ways, and onboarding is often one of them. You know, another way is like they punish the people who need the most help, and then they
Mm-hmm.
help the ones that need the least amount of help.
That makes
I
sense.
played a game a few days ago from somebody who had posted it for feedback on one of the discords I'm on, and I played his game, and first thing off, like the controls were horrible. You had to use both WASD to move, you know, forward, backwards, side to side kind of thing, strafing, and then you had to use a mouse to point which direction you were in, which changed the relation of your WASD because your WASD was linked to the actual character, and then the direction of the character was linked to your mouse. And it felt horrible. And what I had to do to play it was I just limited myself to pressing W, just forward, and then I just did everything with the mouse, full control with the mouse.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the only way I was able to play it. But when I played it and got far enough, what it reminded me of was a prototype, a very super early broken prototype for that one game. Was the Ape Out, where you play as that ape and you like push and shove the guards and
Yeah.
everything. It reminded me so much of that, but you were a monster. And the big, another big issue he had was that the monster didn't feel like a monster. It felt like like a piece of glass,
Oh, no.
like a glass monster, because they shoot you one time, you may die in that one time, but at best they shoot you three times and you're dead, kind of thing.
Mm.
And there's no tell whether or not that was a headshot or not. And it's even more baffling because the fact is every time I got shot, it was pretty much always in the front because I was always going towards the thing, and I was only using the W button.
Oh, no.
So like it was always, no matter when I got hit, it was always getting hit from the front. So where is that headshot that one hits me, and where is it not at? And like so many confusion there, and
Mm-hmm.
many other things. But like it was usability there was just not there. Like
Yep. And onboarding, UI, UX design, this is very important for developers to understand because so many of the games that we have played just fail when it comes to UI and UX. And this is what I think really separates, the bad games from the amazing titles. And again, we can see this in a lot of the games we've played where the onboarding is done really well. That Space Crusaders game that I played this past week, or Star Renegades, I'm sorry, that had a really good nature or really good element of onboarding. It had really solid presentation. The I think you may have fallen asleep at that point, or you weren't watching. But we tried that Crying Suns game, that where we
yeah,
saw. Oh, I'm sorry.
I seen that.
Yeah,
It was not that night, but I seen it this morning. I think it was.
that has some amazing presentation to it.
I also played that one already.
Mm-hmm. And again, a lot of this stuff, and we've said this before, the simple looking stuff is usually the most complicated to get right when we talk about game design.
Yeah, like the simpler it looks, probably the harder it was to make, because the fact is you want, in order to, it's like if I gave you an entire book and told you to sum up that book in one paragraph, and you're like, and don't like miss anything, basically, kind of like just condense that entire book down to one paragraph, and you're like, that's going to be a lot of work, and they do all that lot of work, and that's a simple one. So like the more when if they give you a book on how to play the game, they took the easy way out, aka the hand-holdy thing. If it's streamlined, you don't realize there's a tutorial there. It's very simplified, like very clean UI, as in there's not 5 billion options, everything's sorted properly and everything else. That took a ton of work because like back to the word of the day, my game Chromasia, the thing with it is when you look at tactical RPGs, your normal tactical RPGs, you have move, you have attack, you have defense, and you have magic attack, and sometimes you have item too. We didn't have an item system, so we'll ignore that right there. And then under attack, and you'll have a sub menu, and then under magic, you'll have a sub menu. And we took all that, like the 4 menus and the 2 sub menus, and we turned that into 2 main menus and 1 sub menu because we combined attack and magic attack first. So it's just, all your attacks in one place. And then we put 1 sub menu in there. We should have put a divider in there that lets you know which ones were magic and which ones weren't. But we didn't. That's one thing we felt in onboarding kind of thing, in UI, UX. But the other thing was we also combined move into attack, but we also combined move into defense. So now when you press attack, you're basically pressing move, attack, and magic attack all at the same time. You're pressing all 3 of those buttons in one button press. And when you press defense, you're pressing defense and move in one button press. And there's no, you in move/defense, you just go right to placement. And in, the attack, you go pick your attack in the sub menu. And then you go right to your lining up your attack and everything. And the thing I hated about Disgaea, which we overcome by this UI, is with Disgaea, you go and you move, and then you pick your attack, and you're like, dang it, I'm 1 square off. And then you move back, and then you move back out, and then you find out now you're 1 square off to the other side. You go back, and you redo it, and now you're back where you started at, and you go back and undo it, and now you finally got it right, and now you hit the attack. Where mine, you're moving and lining up the attack at the same time. So it's just seamless. And then the other thing we did was, with those games, you have to, rotate it, manually. You have to, choose a direction kind of thing. And what we did was we still allowed you to manually rotate, but we also said, hey, if there's an enemy in the area where, one of the 4 directions would be facing kind of thing, face that way, basically an auto target. And I found that 99% of the time, I never had to even manually rotate. Which I didn't even think it was going to be that good. I thought it was just going to be, hey, this is going to get like 20% of the time, but it got dang near 100, and I was actually shocked with how good that was.
And again, like when we talk about how simple these things can take time, the best example is from Plants vs. Zombies and doing all the onboarding and UI UX to make that as streamlined as possible. I keep referencing that talk George Fan gave at GDC. I think it took like 6-7 months of iteration and playtesting to make a UI that most people will look at and go, yeah, it's just some dumb casual game. Who cares about it?
But man, Plants vs. Zombies, man, that had tons of just work into that UI, UX, and the onboarding and everything else. They poured so much work into there. It was crazy.
Yep, and again,
and the thing is most people will probably look at it and be like, "There's no tutorial in here," or "There's basically none." But there's a lot of tutorial in there. There's a shocking
Yes.
ton in there, but it's streamlined so good that you don't realize it. And the
Teaching
fact
people.
is that, and the difference between that and just having nothing, no tutorial, is like so night and day difference. Like it may not look night and day difference, but it is so night and day difference because one side, both sides feel like it doesn't have a tutorial because one side actually doesn't. But the real difference is one group learns it and never gets frustrated and really enjoys the game. The other group, 99% of them rage quit, throw the controller at the monitor, break the monitor, shattering it all over the place, and then get pissed off about that and start some kind of frivolous lawsuit against you for making you break their monitor because you frustrated them with your game. and the other like 1% play it and it's like, oh, this is the greatest game ever.
And yeah,
actually, less than 1%, but
and with Plants vs Zombies, it was designed to teach somebody who has never played a tower defense game about tower defense design. And what they did was essentially say, or what we've said before, they treated the game as a way of introducing somebody who's never played it. They understood that someone was going to play Plants vs. Zombies who has never touched a tower defense game. And they had to design a game to accommodate that. And
I think you need to do that treatment to all games.
Exactly. And this is where a lot of indie developers just flat out fail. Is that they assume that because I'm an indie developer, only, the hardcore, super expert players are going to play my game. If I make a 2D platformer, I assume every player is going to be the super high-level Kaizo player. The one who can beat a Kaizo game in, less than 100 deaths.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I make a first-person shooter, then all I'm going to get are, the top 10% Quake players in the world playing my game. And you cannot do that in today's market. Because if
you can, you just will fail horribly.
Yeah. Because that decision always causes a cascading effect when it comes to the onboarding of your game. And all right, Ratsail, see you later. And when you start going down that route, it compounds these UI and UX issues. And again, there's a huge difference between making a very challenging, skill-intensive game that the player can learn and making a very difficult game that just fights the player on trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. And there's another aspect of, this that we haven't touched on, and that was aesthetics kind of thing. Like some people purposely make their aesthetics bad. They're like, oh, this was, we're trying to emulate NES graphics, so we're purposely making them look bad to look like that. It's like, no. You don't. NES graphics. There are some good looking NES games out there.
Oh yes.
Like Super Mario Brothers 3 is a good looking.
The later Mega Man games.
Mm-hmm.
Castlevania.
Mm-hmm. Those are good looking games.
And that's again, like we don't have the time tonight because I have to get going like the next 20 minutes. But yeah, the whole modern retro discussion, that's another rant that I could have right now. And yeah, like especially this last year, we've played many modern retro looking games that they look worse than the games they're trying to emulate.
Mm-hmm.
And
you can't just emulate them as of, oh, this is the style, this is the exact specifications, but in crappy form. Mm-hmm. That's good enough. Ship it.
Yeah.
You do that, and you're making your game bad on purpose, and you may capture the essence of NES games, but what you're capturing the essence of is LJN. The one of the worst NES game maker of all time. I mean, if you want to be the equivalent of the worst, NES game developer, then go ahead. But you're not going to like the results because they're not going to be positive. Yep. Now, then, if you want to emulate a NES game in such a way to make it a beautiful NES game, like Mario 3, Castlevania, all these other things, Metroid, Mega Man games, like those were very pretty games, and you could definitely emulate that and pull that off if you're good enough, kind of thing, and it will look more like an NES game than what the other person was doing with the just let's just slap something together and make it look bad on purpose. Like no,
and again, like that's another big point that people aren't going to like your ironically made bad game. It's supposed to be a bad game. We don't have tutorials because we're trying to be edgy and satirical. No, they're just going to see a bad game.
Yeah, I mean, and they also don't care if you go on your store page and say, do not buy this game. What they'll do is not buy the game.
Yeah. And
reverse psychology doesn't work.
And like to your point about kind of like taking like 2D or NES-bit graphics or that style and elevating it, we can look at stuff like, again, Local Molito, Yacht Club Games, Joy Masher, that Infernax that's coming from developer of Just Shapes and the excuse that because it's 8-bit that has to look ugly. No, that doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, 8-bit wasn't ugly by default. 8-bit was ugly when they had a crap budget and a crap art team kind of thing. Like if you want to do a crap budget and a crap art team, go ahead, but people are going to see it and be like, that's a crap budget and crap art game, and then they're not going to buy it.
Yeah.
But if you do like good NES graphic kind of thing, then like with today's technology and everything, today's tools, today's knowledge, more and more specifically, because like you're still following the limitations of the NES, but or at least most of them, all the graphic ones for the most part. But even within those limitations kind of thing, you can make something better than any NES game out there, because the fact is you can skew it, because like the NES had very specific color palette.
Yep.
You can run any color palette.
Oh yeah. And I mean,
you can even limit it to the same number of colors, but you could also like add more colors, because I mean that was just a technology limit, and that's not going to be like, oh, that's not a legit NES thing at that point. No, it'd be just as legit.
And again, we have seen developers go above and beyond, not only with their aesthetics, but also with their actual designs. Again, something like Blasphemous or Odalus the Dark Call, and what we're seeing with Infernax, that these are games that developer didn't just say, I want to make an old school game and be done with it. They wanted to do more than that. And like we've said,
what they wanted to do is make a game that the developers back in those times wanted to make.
Exactly.
But couldn't, because of hardware limitations, because of cartridge limitations, because of speed and latency issues, because of knowledge, because like people back then didn't know nothing in game dev compared to what we do now. It is night and day difference kind of thing. Because I mean, they were basically programming on a calculator, where we're programming on like what was equivalent back then of like every computer in the world tied together,
and still times like 10.
By 10.
Yeah, and like this is another point I think, that needs to be said. That when I spoke with developers who are working on like modern retro RPGs, especially those that are, I think it was Scold and another one, and when I interviewed them, they explicitly said that yes, we're designing a game to have that look and feel, But we also want to go beyond that. We know those old games were frustrating. There were limitations. Again, any of the old school consoles and those kind of designs had obvious limitations of what you can and couldn't, or what you could or couldn't do.
And they also had this, design was not all that big back then because like
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nowadays when you talk about lives in a game, that's a
Mm-hmm.
really outdated
Oh
mechanic kind of
yes.
thing, and that was in basically every game back then.
Or if your game doesn't have an internal save system.
Hmm. I
And
mean, like, are you going to, put the bull crap of you've got to write down this password in your game? No. Well, you might, but not if you want to do well.
yeah, people aren't going to deal with that anymore. And again, what they want to do is create a game like that, but it still has to be palatable to modern audiences. And you can't just use frustration as a crutch. You can't just say, oh, this game is purposely going to be hard to play because we want to test the player. No, that's not where you want to test somebody on.
I mean, it is where you want to test somebody if you want to go out of business.
Or if you want masochists to play your game. But masochism is not a huge market.
Nope. You got a market of Josh and like what, 2,000-3,000 others,
And
but
people.
not even all 2,000-3,000 of those even play games.
And yeah,
I mean, if
exactly,
you,
Silicon.
I think if you want to, appeal to the masochism,
Mm-hmm.
thing, you'd be better off not focusing on old school Nintendo games, but rather, ones with BDSM hoods,
Mm-hmm.
it's not.
And you have to be very much well aware of what aspects of your game you want somebody to focus on. And like we've said, anything that distracts or prevents the player from enjoying the core gameplay loop, that is bad design.
Hmm.
And too many developers still fall into that idea that if our game is frustrating, then surely it must be a good game. Or we want to force the player to think. That's another thing that I think a lot of people will argue. We want the player to think. But like we've said, with the examples of Super Metroid, Mario, a lot of organic tutorial design, you have to kind of play. There's definitely psychology at work here that I think a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, it's not just as simple as just make it and they'll figure it out. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, the example I gave with the potions to you. I mean, what do you do? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like the only thing you can really do is start clicking on things, see if the potions are interactable, and if they are, see if you're going to mix them together, see if something happens, and just keep on fooling around until something happens.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is see, I made mine, like a lot of these people would, that do know onboarding, and the whole secret was the black potion on a black background, so that you couldn't even see the potion or the clear base that was on it. So when you were clicking around, all these, five potions that you could see, nothing happened, and then you had to, you know, magically, accidentally click and drag on the black potion, and then you hear the sound effect of the potion swiggling, and you're like, wait a minute, is there something in my thing? And then you jiggle it, yeah. And then if you accidentally put it down, kind of thing, you're not finding it again, and
Oh
then you have to
yes.
find out what the heck you're supposed to do with that, which was mix it with the blue potion because the game beat you black and blue trying to figure out that dang puzzle.
Oh, and don't forget games that they end up that you're forced to replay them because you're never going to learn the game when your first time through. And
Hmm.
yeah, again, that is not a tutorial. That is just forcing the player to put up with a lack of or a bad tutorial. So when you see somebody say, I couldn't figure out your game, but after 3 hours of playing it clicked and now I love it, that is not a positive comment.
No. I mean, it's positive that you have one fan,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the fact is that there's like 3,000 people, or 2,999 more people that didn't give it 3 hours. They gave it like 5 minutes. They uninstalled and got a refund.
Mm-hmm.
And then that one person left you that comment,
Yep.
and that one person will, in the 2099 that refunded did not. And they didn't even bother leaving a review that I couldn't figure this game out because
Mm-hmm.
they didn't find it worth their time, just like they didn't find playing it for 3 hours was worth their time. So they left, and they just got their money back and left. And you had nothing the wiser to them even being there. You didn't even know they existed, but there was 3,000 people that bought your game, and you just
Mm-hmm.
lost 2,999 of them.
Oh yeah, and I want to point out something like because people will argue this point. I'm sure if we leave it at that, somebody will leave a comment to this that there are games that have a good amount of sales. I looked up La Mulana 2, and again, the La Mulana fan base, they are rabid about that title. Looking at the reviews for La Mulana 2, it has 421 reviews. And some people will argue that seems like a good number, right? They have a few hundred fans who left reviews.
No, it doesn't.
Exactly. And the problem is that, again, you don't know how many people bought that game, got fed up with that game, and refunded without saying a word.
And the
And
thing is the developers don't even know that
yeah,
because you know, as releasing games myself, kind of thing. Like, it doesn't tell me when somebody refunded the game. It does not tell me any of that. But I can see some evidence that there was probably some refunds because of the amount of money that I was paid, kind of thing, was not exactly even with the price, but the price was the same in all regions, kind of thing.
mm,
So, something got eaten up in like transaction fees and stuff like that, kind of thing. And
mm,
like, and I have no idea how many people refunded,
yeah.
and
And,
I have no knowledge of anything that happened. It just, there's so many, there's data points that point to the fact that something did happen there and there was some kind of refund, but Steam does not give those numbers. Steam does not have a category of refunds. They have a category of
mm-hmm.
gross sales and whatnot, and those are pretty much a month behind,
Yep.
which is after that you've hit the 30-day limit of being able to keep the game before you're no longer able to refund.
Mm-hmm.
And they only pay you once a month. So, and if that, because if you don't hit $100, they're not going to be paying you at all.
Oh, yes. And I do have to get going in the next few minutes, but there's one last point I want to make, and then I'll throw over to you, Shark. That if I go to the La Mulana 2 forum and I type in things about quality of life improvements or issues I have with the game, that post will most likely get downvoted and just get steamrolled by a lot of people leaving comments saying, you don't get the game, the game is perfect, I love this game, and blah, blah, blah. And this is where that, echo chamber effect problem really comes in.
Yeah, and
Because,
that's a toxic fan base, but that is.
and that's part of it. And again, there are these games that end up being very frustrating or very hard to play. There are people who will love it. I'm sure there are people out there who declare La Mulana 2 or Getting Over It or any of these frustrating games that we talk about to be amazing games and there's no problems and don't change a thing. You love that comment, right, Shark? When someone says,
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
perfect.
absolutely perfect. You
And
know, the thing is though, is there would be a lot more people that like that game had
exactly.
they done the proper onboarding, UI, proper
Mm-hmm.
art, all this other stuff.
Yep, and that is the point right there about this that frustrating games do sell. there will still be, the hardest of the hardcore, nichiest of the niche amount of people who will play that game. But
And a lot of them will be YouTubers.
Oh yeah, but you will, unfortunately, and this is kind of our big problem. You will never know what could have been. If you did the job right, if you got all that onboarding done properly and did it all right, could you have gotten more people to play your game? As a bit of a converse example here, I looked up that Touhou Luna Nights, which is kind of a super challenging kind of Metroidvania bullet hell kind of game, and it's sitting at over 7,000 reviews.
Yeah, I know somebody who made one of these games that were very, very frustrating. It was a platformer, that had the platform gas in it and everything. Well, actually, it was really lacking platform gas because it was one of these ones that had, horrible onboarding, punishment mechanics and all this other stuff that, all these red flags and everything. And, he put his game out there and, he got more YouTubers to cover his game than I did, kind of thing. And, because I basically got 0. I got 3. Technically, one, we're 4 counting you, Josh. And thing is, he got like 10, 15, 20 to cover, make videos on it and everything. But do you know what his sales were, and do you know what my sales were? My sales were dismal, but my sales were like 130 copies we sold. I think he sold 3 copies.
Yeah. And again, how many people did buy that game and then ended up refunding it within a minute or two later? And yeah, like Shark and I have been having this discussion about, the drop-off rate when it comes to people playing a game. And that is another major topic we need to get back to at some point. Because it is important. Because you can have a game, again, there's going to be people who love your game, warts and all, but like we said before, people don't want to put up with pain points or frustration in a title. And it doesn't matter if your game is amazing if once you put up with all that, because a lot of people are going to end up quitting. This is This is why we still turn to developers like Nintendo and Blizzard, who do a really great job of getting the people invested in their games, doing that onboarding. And again, this is why people love the Mario games, and they want to play more of these titles. Because, yes, they're not going to be super demanding to start with, but that's not the point. They want to make sure somebody starts these games and enjoys it from minute 1, not 4 hours in after 20 different restarts.
Yeah, you if you're depending on all the restarts, then you're depending on failure. Quite frankly, because like you're depending on 99.9% of people quitting your game and and frustrated and everything. And you fail all those people, and then you're the one person who makes it through all that level. That's the one you didn't fail, because that's the one that is like Superman and couldn't be failed. No matter how many bullets you shot at him, he just sit there and tanked all of them, kind of thing, because he's freaking Superman. But most people are not Superman. 99.999% of people are not Superman. They are,
again,
they may be the Flash, but they're going to get hit by a bullet and they're going to go down.
And again, that yes, you may have 5 to 10% of people playing your game who will beat it, and they are going to be the masters, and they're going to tell you your game is too easy. Make it harder. While the other 90% of people are like, I can't even play past your first chapter. This game sucks. Refund.
Yeah, I got to the point on my testing for my last game, to where the hardcore was saying this is too easy, and the more newbie were saying that this is a little bit on the hard side. I was like, that's probably a good sign that I've got it right where it needs to be.
Yep.
Right in the middle, where the newbies are having problems, but not like a whole lot of problems, and the hardcore is just breezing through it. Because the fact is if you go, any higher, then you're going to be cutting out everybody, all the newbies kind of thing, and then they're going to all be refunding.
And you can't do that.
And if you go any lower, then you're just insulting your hardcore players, and they're just going to be like, no, I'm out, kind of thing.
And there's a lot more on this top about getting both groups of people to enjoy your game, but I am at time, unfortunately. I do need to get going for tonight, because we did start so late. So, again, we'll be back next week around our normal time, hopefully without too many bugs and technical issues. But, as always, thank you so much for tuning in for these casts. Again, if you're watching this on my stream, you'll find links to Shark's Discord, Twitter, YouTube, and all that in the description. And if you're watching things on Shark's stream or record video, you'll find links to my content in his description,
as well as mine, the Discord and everything.
Yep.
So you'll find in both of our description, you'll find all of our links and everything.
Yep. Be sure to, of course, do all that liking and subscribing as well. And you can follow me on Twitter at GWBeister. And again, be sure to join our Discord channels that are linked down below if you want to continue this discussion about frustration. I'll be updating our topic thread with that probably later on tonight.
Yep, and we always enjoy talking game dev.
Oh, yes. So, everybody, we'll be back next Sunday around 4 p.m. Hopefully, maybe we'll start on time. We'll see. 4 p.m. EDT for our next show, and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Until next time, take care.